Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship and watched the stars change. One moment, space was empty and quiet. The next moment, 12 massive alien ships appeared out of nowhere. They were huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built. Their hulls looked like they were made of crystal and metal, shining with strange lights. Jake had been a ship commander for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like this. His hands moved quickly over the control panel, sending messages to Earth. The alien ships just floated there, not moving, like they were waiting for something. "Sir, we're getting a message," said his communications officer, a young woman named Beth Cooper. Her voice was steady, but Jake could see her hands shaking a little. "It's coming from the big ship in the center." "Put it on screen," Jake said. The main screen flickered, and an alien face appeared. It had 4 eyes, blue skin, and no nose that Jake could see. When it spoke, a computer translated its words into English. "Humans of Earth," the alien said. Its voice was cold and flat. "I am High Commander Vexthil of the Zephyrian Collective. Your planet is now under our control. You have 72 hours to surrender. All humans will be moved to work camps on other worlds. You will obey or you will die." The screen went black. Jake stared at it for a long moment. Then he opened a channel to Earth Defense Command. On Earth, Admiral Lisa Carter was in a meeting when the emergency alarm went off. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been in the military for 30 years and had never lost a battle. But she had never fought aliens before. "What's the situation?" she asked as she walked into the command center. 12 alien warships just appeared near the moon, reported Colonel Steve Davis. "They're demanding we surrender in 3 days." Lisa looked at the screen showing the alien ships. They were arranged in a perfect circle, like they had done this many times before. "How big are they?" "Each one is about 5 miles long. Our sensors show they have weapons and shields we've never seen before." Lisa nodded slowly. She had been preparing for this day since she was a young officer. Humans had known that aliens existed for 20 years, ever since they first detected alien radio signals. The government had kept it secret, but they had been getting ready. "Activate Protocol 7, she said. "Send the message to all commands." Across the solar system, things began to happen. On the moon, huge doors opened in the ground. Inside were weapons that had been built in secret over the past 10 years. On Mars, space stations that looked like research facilities started to show their real purpose. They were weapon platforms, armed with the most dangerous weapons humans could build. Captain Alex Rodriguez was on a small ship called the Shadowhawk, hidden behind an asteroid. His job was to watch the aliens and learn how they fought. He had been following their ships for weeks as they traveled through space. "They move like they're following a book," he told his crew. "Everything they do is neat and organized. They keep their ships far apart, so if one explodes, it won't hurt the others." His weapons officer, Lieutenant Dan Miller, looked at the alien formation. "That's smart. Why don't we do that?" Alex smiled. "Because we're not smart. We're crazy." Back on Earth, Lisa was meeting with the world's leaders. The President of the United States, the Prime Minister of England, the leaders of China and Russia, all were on video screens in the secure conference room. "They want us to give up without a fight," Lisa told them. "They think we're weak because we don't have spaceships as big as theirs." "Are we going to surrender?" asked the President. Lisa looked at the faces on the screens. These were the leaders of the most powerful countries on Earth. They had nuclear weapons, armies, and the will to fight. But they had never faced an enemy from the stars. "No," she said. "We're going to show them what humans do when someone tries to make us slaves." Lieutenant Sophie Williams was only 25 years old, but she was the best tactical officer in the Earth Defense Force. She studied the alien ships on her computer screen, looking for weaknesses. "They're using standard galactic warfare tactics," she told Admiral Carter. "I've been studying the recordings of other worlds they conquered. They always do the same thing. They show up, make threats, then attack if the planet doesn't surrender." "What's their weakness?" Lisa asked. Sophie smiled. "They follow rules. They fight fair. They try not to lose too many ships or kill too many of their own people." "And we don't," Lisa said. "No, ma'am. We don't." The 72 hours passed slowly. The alien ships stayed in their perfect formation, waiting. They sent more messages to Earth, promising that surrender would be painless and that humans would be treated well as workers. On the last day, High Commander Vexthal sent a final message to Earth. He appeared on every television and computer screen on the planet. "Humans," he said, "your time is up. Surrender now and live. Fight us and die. We have conquered 47 worlds. We have never lost a battle. You cannot win." Lisa Carter stood in the main communications room of Earth Defense Command. Behind her were officers from every branch of the military. In front of her was a camera that would send her message to the alien commander. "High Commander Vexthal," she said, "we have received your ultimatum. We have considered your offer. Our answer is this: come and take it." The message went out to the alien ships. For a moment, there was silence. Then the alien commander's reply came back. It was just 2 words, translated by the computer. "Very well." Jake Morrison watched from his ship as the alien fleet began to move. They came forward slowly, keeping their perfect formation. Their weapons started to glow with deadly energy, but Jake was smiling, because all around him, space was beginning to fill with human ships. They came from Earth, from the Moon, from Mars, from secret bases in the asteroid belt. They were smaller than the alien ships, and they looked rough and dangerous. The aliens had expected to fight a weak, scared planet. Instead, they were about to learn what happened when you threatened the human race. The war was about to begin. Admiral Lisa Carter stood in the command center and watched the countdown on the big screen. 3 minutes until the deadline ended. Around her, officers worked at their stations, talking quietly into headsets. Everyone was ready. "All stations report ready," said Colonel Steve Davis. "Protocol 7 is active." Lisa nodded. She had spent 20 years preparing for this moment. Earth's secret weapons were finally going to be tested. She hoped they would be enough that the timer reached 0. "Execute," Lisa said. Across the solar system, hidden doors opened. On the far side of the moon, huge sections of rock moved aside. Underneath were massive weapons that looked like giant cannons. They had been built in secret, using the strongest materials humans could make. Captain Ben Rogers was on the destroyer Relentless, leading a group of 20 human warships. His ship was much smaller than the alien vessels, but it was fast and heavily armed. More importantly, it was crewed by humans who had nothing to lose. "All ships, attack formation Delta," Ben said into his radio. "Remember, we get close and we hit hard." The human ships moved forward. Instead of staying far apart like the aliens did, they flew close together. Their energy shields touched and overlapped, creating a wall of protection that moved through space like a metal fist. High Commander Vexthal watched the human ships approach. He had seen this before on other worlds. The local species would send their primitive ships against the collective's advanced fleet. It always ended the same way. "Begin the attack," he ordered. "Target their largest ships first." The alien weapons fired. Beams of pure energy reached across space toward the human fleet. But something was wrong. The energy beams hit the human shields and scattered, spreading across multiple ships instead of destroying one. "How are they doing that?" asked Vexthal's tactical officer. A high commander studied the human formation. The ships were so close together that their shields had become one giant shield. It was dangerous and should have caused their own systems to explode. But somehow, human technology could handle it. Dr. Corinne Blake watched the battle from her laboratory, deep under the Colorado mountains. She was the head of human weapons development, and she had spent 10 years preparing for this day. On her screens, she could see the alien ships firing at the human fleet. Phase 1 complete, she told Admiral Carter over the radio. The aliens are using standard energy weapons. Our overlapping shield technology is working. What about Phase 2? Lisa asked. Corinne smiled. Activating now. In the asteroid belt, Major Tony Garrett sat in the control room of a secret military base. The base was built inside a large asteroid, hidden from alien sensors. Around him, huge machines began to move. Kinetic bombardment system online, Tony reported. Targeting the alien flagship, the machines were simple but deadly. They were magnetic. Rails that could launch pieces of metal at incredible speed. The metal rods were made of tungsten, one of the hardest materials on Earth. When fired, they moved at 12% of the speed of light. Fire, Tony said. The tungsten rod shot out of the asteroid base. It was invisible to most sensors, just a small piece of metal moving through space. It would take 30 seconds to reach the alien flagship. Captain Ben Rogers saw the alien energy beams hitting his fleet's shields. Some of the beams got through, damaging human ships. But the humans kept coming forward, getting closer to the alien vessels. All ships, prepare for close combat, Ben ordered. Fire everything we have. The human ships opened fire with weapons the aliens had never seen before. Instead of energy beams, the humans used rockets, bullets, and explosive missiles. The weapons were primitive but effective. They hit the alien ships like hammers, denting their crystal hulls. High Commander Vexthal felt his flagship shake as human weapons struck it. How were these primitive creatures able to damage collective ships? Their weapons looked like something from a museum. Sir, we're detecting an incoming object, his sensor officer reported. It's moving very fast. What kind of object? Unknown. It's too small to be a ship, too fast to be a missile. Vexthal looked at his tactical display. A small dot was moving toward his ship at impossible speed. How fast? 12% light speed, sir. The High Commander's 4 eyes went wide. That was impossible. No civilization used kinetic weapons at that velocity. The energy required was enormous, and the danger to the firing ship was too great. Evasive action, he ordered, but it was too late. The tungsten rod hit the alien flagship in the center of its hull. The impact released more energy than a nuclear bomb. The alien ship's crystal structure couldn't handle the force. Cracks spread across the hull like lightning. Then the flagship exploded. The explosion was unlike anything the other alien commanders had ever seen. The ship didn't just break apart. It turned into a cloud of superheated gas that glowed like a small star. The light was so bright that human ships had to turn their cameras away. Flagship destroyed, reported Captain Alex Rodriguez from the Shadowhawk. The aliens are breaking formation. The alien fleet was in chaos. Their most powerful ship was gone, destroyed by a simple piece of metal. The other alien commanders didn't understand how it was possible. Reform the battle line, ordered Sub-Commander Kelter, who was now in charge of the alien fleet. Call for reinforcements. But the humans weren't giving them time to think. Captain Ben Rogers led his ships right into the middle of the alien formation. The human vessels were small and fast, darting between the huge alien ships like insects. Lieutenant Sophie Williams was on the bridge of the cruiser Victory, coordinating the attack. She had studied alien tactics for years and knew exactly how they would react. The aliens are trying to reform their defensive circle, she told Ben Rogers over the radio. They're moving to position 7. Understood. All ships target the command vessels. Don't let them organize. The human fleet split into smaller groups, each one attacking a different alien ship. The aliens had never faced an enemy that fought like this. Most species tried to preserve their ships and crews. Humans seemed willing to lose everything to win. Colonel Amy Peterson was on Earth, commanding the planet's defensive systems. She watched the battle through satellites and sensors. The human fleet was doing well, but more alien ships were coming. "Admiral, we're detecting hyperspace signatures," she reported to Lisa Carter. "At least 40 more alien ships are approaching." Lisa looked at the tactical display. The human fleet had managed to destroy 3 alien ships and damage several others. But 40 more ships would outnumber the humans 5 to 1. "How long until they arrive?" Lisa asked. 15 minutes. Lisa made a decision that would change everything. Activate the lunar defense grid. Full power. On the moon's surface, the hidden weapon installations came fully online. They were massive railguns, each one as big as a city block. They had been built using alien technology that humans had, reverse-engineered from crashed ships over the past 20 years. The lunar weapons fired together, sending hundreds of tungsten rods toward the approaching alien reinforcements. The aliens saw them coming and tried to dodge, but they were moving too fast. The kinetic bombardment hit the alien reinforcement fleet while they were still in hyperspace. Ships exploded as they tried to return to normal space. Others were damaged so badly they couldn't fight. Commander Ryan Foster was flying a modified fighter plane that had been fitted with rocket engines. It shouldn't have been able to work in space, but human engineers had made it work anyway. He led a squadron of similar fighters toward the damaged alien ships. "Remember, we're not trying to destroy them," Ryan told his pilots. "We're trying to capture them. Intelligence wants to study their technology." The human fighters swarmed around the alien vessels like angry bees. They fired small missiles at the alien weapon systems, trying to disable them without destroying the ships completely. High Commander Vextel was on one of the surviving alien ships, trying to understand what had happened. His perfect fleet had been cut to pieces by a species that barely had space travel. It was impossible. "Send a message to the collective High Command," he ordered. "Tell them we need the sector fleet, all of it." His communications officer looked worried. "Sir, that's 300 ships. The High Command will ask why we need so many vessels to conquer one primitive world." Vexthal looked at the tactical display, which showed human ships everywhere, fighting with weapons that made no sense in tactics, that violated every rule of civilized warfare. "Tell them," he said slowly, "that these humans don't fight like any species we've encountered before. They fight like they want to die, and they want to take us with them." The message went out across the galaxy, calling for the largest fleet the Zephyrian Collective had ever assembled. But the humans weren't waiting. They were already preparing for the next battle, and it was going to be bigger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. High Commander Vextel stood on the bridge of his damaged ship and tried to understand what had gone wrong. Half of his fleet was destroyed or captured. The humans had weapons that made no sense and fought in ways that violated every rule of galactic warfare. "Sir, the sector fleet is approaching," his tactical officer reported. "Fleet Admiral Krulinoff is demanding a full report." Vextel closed his 4 eyes. Krulinoff was known throughout the galaxy as the World Breaker. He had destroyed 12 entire civilizations and had never lost a single battle. If he was coming to Earth, it meant the collective was taking this seriously. "Tell the Fleet Admiral that these humans are not like other species," Vextel said. "They don't follow any known patterns of warfare." On Earth, Admiral Lisa Carter was in an emergency meeting with world leaders. The first battle was over, but everyone knew the aliens would be back with more ships. "How many ships are we expecting?" asked the President of the United States. Our long-range sensors show at least 300 alien vessels approaching. Lisa replied, "They'll be here in 6 hours." The president looked pale. "How many ships do we have?" 60 combat-ready vessels. Maybe 70 if we count the converted civilian ships. That's not nearly enough. Lisa nodded. "No, sir, it's not. But we have other options." She turned to Dr. Karen Blake, who was sitting at the far end of the table. "Doctor, is Project Prometheus ready?" Karen looked uncomfortable. "Admiral, I have to remind you that Project Prometheus violates several international treaties. If we activate it, there's no going back." "What is Project Prometheus?" asked the Prime Minister of England. Karen stood up and walked to the main screen. "It's a self-replicating weapons system. Nanobots that can build copies of themselves using any available materials. They're designed to attack alien technology and convert it into more weapons." "How fast do they replicate?" asked the president. "They double in number every 12 minutes. One bot becomes 2, 2 become 4, 4 become 8, and so on." The room was quiet for a moment. Everyone understood what that meant. If the nanobots ever got out of control, they could consume everything. "There's another issue," Karen continued. "The nanobots are programmed to recognize human DNA and avoid harming us. But if they encounter any other form of life, they'll treat it as an enemy," Lisa finished. "I understand the risks. But if we don't use every weapon we have, there won't be any humans left to worry about trees." The president made the decision that would change everything. Activate Project Prometheus. Captain Steve Harrison was on the bridge of the new human dreadnought Retribution. The ship had been built in just 18 days using technology stolen from captured alien vessels. It was ugly and dangerous, held together with human engineering and pure determination. "Sir, we're getting reports from the outer system." His communications officer said, "The alien fleet is massive. Over 300 ships." Steve looked at the tactical display. The human fleet looked tiny compared to what was coming. But every human ship was loaded with nuclear weapons and crewed by volunteers who knew they probably wouldn't survive the battle. "All ships, this is Admiral Carter," came the voice over the radio. "The enemy fleet will arrive in 4 hours. We're going to hit them with everything we have. Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for every human who will ever be born." Lieutenant Commander Helen Parker was on the stealth ship Ghost Protocol, hidden in the shadow of a large asteroid. Her job was to get close to the alien command ship and deploy a special team of human soldiers directly onto its hull. "Are you sure this will work?" asked Sergeant Matt Turner, the leader of the boarding team. He was wearing a spacesuit that had been modified with armor plating and weapon mounts. "It has to work," Helen replied. "We've never tried to board an alien ship in the middle of a battle before. But we've never had a choice like this before either." The alien fleet arrived, exactly when predicted. 300 ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. At their center was the largest ship anyone had ever seen. It was 20 miles long and covered with weapons that could destroy entire planets. Fleet Admiral Krelinath stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. He was tall, even for a Zephyrian, with dark blue skin and 6 arms. Each arm ended in claws that had personally killed the leaders of 12 different worlds. "Show me the human fleet," he ordered. Main screen lit up, showing the small group of human ships waiting near Earth. Krelinath studied them for a moment, then laughed. It was a sound like breaking glass. "This is what destroyed Vexthil's fleet? These tiny ships?" "Yes, sir," his tactical officer replied. "But, sir, their weapons are unusual. They use kinetic projectiles at extremely high velocity." "Primitive," Krelinath said. "Begin orbital bombardment of their major cities. We'll break their will to fight before we destroy their fleet. The alien bombardment platforms began targeting Earth's largest cities. Beams of pure energy reached down from space, aimed at New York, London, Beijing, and Moscow. But Colonel Amy Peterson was ready for them. From hidden bunkers around the world, she launched Earth's response. Hundreds of intercontinental ballistic missiles rose from the planet's surface, each one carrying a fusion warhead. The missiles were old technology, left over from the Cold War, but human engineers had modified them with new guidance systems and more powerful warheads. As they climbed toward space, the alien bombardment beams struck them. Most of the missiles were destroyed, but a few got through. When fusion bombs exploded against alien energy shields, the results were spectacular. The shields failed, and the bombardment platforms were destroyed in nuclear fire. Fleet Admiral Krulinoff watched his bombardment platforms die and felt something he hadn't experienced in 100 years. Surprise! How are they intercepting our bombardment beams with primitive missiles? He asked. Unknown, sir. Their technology shouldn't be capable of tracking our targeting systems. Krulinoff studied the tactical display more carefully. The humans weren't fighting like any species he had encountered. They seemed willing to sacrifice anything to achieve their goals. Send in the siege fleet, he ordered. Destroy their ships. One by one, Captain Steve Harrison watched the alien siege fleet approach. 50 massive ships, each one larger than Earth's biggest building. Their weapons could cut through anything humans had ever built. All ships, attack formation, Charlie, he said over the radio. We go in close, and we hit them hard. The human fleet charged forward. Instead of trying to fight at long range, they flew straight at the alien ships. It was suicide, but it was the only chance they had. Commander Ryan Foster led his squadron of modified fighters into the alien formation. His ships were fast and small, able to dodge between the massive alien vessels. They carried special weapons designed just for this battle. Target their weapon systems, Ryan ordered. Don't try to destroy the ships. Just make them unable to fight. The human fighters swarmed around the alien vessels like insects attacking giants. They fired rockets and bullets at the alien weapons, trying to disable them. Many of the fighters were destroyed, but they kept coming. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Commander Helen Parker guided the Ghost Protocol through the alien fleet. The stealth ship was invisible to alien sensors, able to move freely among the enemy vessels. Approaching. The command ship, she reported to Admiral Carter, preparing to deploy the boarding team. Sergeant Matt Turner and his squad of 12 soldiers prepared for the most dangerous mission in human history. They were going to cut their way into the alien flagship and try to capture or destroy it from the inside. Remember, Matt told his team, we don't know what's inside that ship. But whatever it is, it's not going to expect humans with shotguns and explosives. The Ghost Protocol reached the Eternal Dominion and matched its speed. Matt's team launched themselves from the stealth ship, using small rocket packs to cross. The gap between vessels they landed on the alien ship's hull and immediately began cutting through the metal with plasma torches. The aliens had never designed their ships to resist boarding actions. No species had ever been crazy enough to try it. Dr. Karen Blake watched the battle from her underground laboratory. The nanobots of Project Prometheus had been released and were already beginning to spread through space. They were invisible to most sensors, tiny machines looking for alien technology to consume and convert. Admiral, the nanobots have reached the alien fleet, she reported to Lisa Carter. They're beginning to infiltrate the enemy ships. How long? Until we see results? Lisa asked. 12 minutes for the first replication cycle. After that, they'll spread exponentially. Fleet Admiral Krulinoff felt his flagship shake as something hit the hull. His sensors showed no enemy ships nearby, but the impacts continued. Sir, we're detecting multiple hull breaches. his engineering officer reported. "Something is cutting through our armor. What kind of weapon could do that?" "Unknown, sir. The breaches are too small for missiles, too precise for energy weapons." What Krulleneth didn't know was that Matt Turner and his squad were inside his ship, making their way toward the bridge. The humans moved through the alien corridors like a force of nature, destroying everything in their path. The battle was reaching its climax. Hundreds of ships fought in the space around Earth, human courage against alien technology. But something was changing. Sergeant Matt Turner crawled through the alien ship's ventilation system, following the map his team had memorized. The Eternal Dominion was huge, but humans had been breaking into enemy fortresses for thousands of years. This was just bigger. And in space. "Turner to Ghost Protocol," he whispered into his radio. "We're inside, moving toward the bridge." Lieutenant Commander Helen Parker listened from the stealth ship. "Copy that, Turner? Be advised, we're detecting massive alien reinforcements. Approaching. You need to move fast." Matt looked back at his squad. 12 human soldiers in modified spacesuits, carrying weapons that would make alien engineers weep. They had shotguns, assault rifles, and enough explosives to level a city block. "You heard her," Matt said. "We move fast and we hit hard." The squad moved through the alien corridors like ghosts. The ship's internal defenses were designed to stop energy weapons and conventional alien soldiers. They had never been tested against humans with a bad attitude and military-grade hardware. Fleet Admiral Krulleneth stood on his bridge, trying to understand what was happening to his fleet. His sensors showed that several ships were losing power, their systems failing one by one. "Sir, we're detecting some kind of contamination in the fleet," his science officer reported. "Ships are reporting system failures, loss of power, and structural damage." "What kind of contamination?" "Unknown. It appears to be spreading from ship to ship, consuming our technology and converting it into something else." Krulleneth had never heard of anything like this. In 300 years of galactic warfare, no species had ever used weapons that could spread between ships like a disease. On Earth, Dr. Corinne Blake watched her nanobots do their work. The tiny machines were invisible to alien sensors, but they were everywhere. They consumed alien metal and circuitry, converting it into more nanobots and simple but effective weapons. "Admiral, the nanobots have reached full replication," she reported to Lisa Carter. "The alien fleet is being consumed from the inside." "How long until their ships are disabled?" Lisa asked. "At current replication rates, major systems failure. In 30 minutes. Complete conversion in 2 hours." But Admiral Carter knew they didn't have 2 hours. Her long-range sensors were showing something that made her blood run cold. "Colonel Davis, what are you seeing from the outer system?" Colonel Steve Davis looked at his sensor display and shook his head. "Admiral, we're detecting hyperspace signatures. Big ones. It looks like the entire Zephyrian Grand Fleet is approaching." "How many ships?" "Over 1,000, ma'am. Maybe 1,200. Lisa closed her eyes for a moment. Earth's entire fleet couldn't fight 1,200 alien warships. Even with the nanobots, it would be impossible. "Send a message to all human colonies," she ordered. "Tell them to prepare for the worst." Captain Steve Harrison was fighting for his life aboard the Retribution. His ship was surrounded by alien vessels, their weapons cutting through human armor like paper. But the humans kept fighting, using every trick they had learned in centuries of warfare. "Sir, we're losing main power," his engineering officer reported. "Hull breaches on decks 3 through 7. "Keep fighting," Steve ordered. "We don't surrender." The Retribution fired its last nuclear missiles at the nearest alien ship. The explosion lit up space like a miniature sun, destroying the alien vessel and damaging 2 others. But there were always more aliens. Commander Ryan Foster's fighter squadron was down to 3 ships. They had been fighting for 2 hours, darting between the massive alien vessels like mosquitoes attacking elephants. Ryan's ship had taken so much damage that half his instruments didn't work. "Foster to all units," he said over the radio. "We're not going to make it out of this one, but let's make sure they remember us." The 3 remaining fighters dove toward the largest alien ship they could find. They were loaded with nuclear warheads, turned into guided missiles by human desperation. Sergeant Matt Turner and his squad had finally reached the bridge of the Eternal Dominion. The massive room was filled with alien technology and crew members, with blue skin and 4 eyes. In the center stood Fleet Admiral Krellineth, the world breaker himself. "Surprise," Matt said, and opened fire with his shotgun. The aliens had never seen weapons like the ones the humans carried. Their personal armor was designed to stop energy weapons, not high-velocity metal pellets. The human squad moved through the bridge like a storm, destroying everything in their path. Fleet Admiral Krellineth looked at the humans and felt something he had never experienced before: fear. These creatures were smaller than Zephyrians, but they fought with a fury that seemed impossible. "How did you get aboard my ship?" he demanded. Matt Turner reloaded his shotgun and smiled. "We're humans. We don't ask permission." The squad quickly destroyed the bridge's main computers and communication systems. Without its command center, the Eternal Dominion was just a very large piece of metal floating in space. But even as they succeeded, Matt knew it wasn't enough. Through the bridge's windows, he could see more alien ships than he could count. The Grand Fleet had arrived. Admiral Lisa Carter watched the Grand Fleet drop out of hyperspace. 1,200 ships, each one capable of destroying a city. At their center was a ship so large it looked like a small moon. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet," reported her communications officer. "Put it on screen." The face that appeared was unlike any alien they had seen before. It was ancient, with skin like black metal and eyes that glowed with their own light. When it spoke, its voice was like the sound of worlds dying. "I am supreme. Commander Zarthiel of the Zephyrian Grand Fleet," it said. "You have destroyed 2 of our fleets and captured our flagship. This is unprecedented in galactic history." The Supreme Commander paused, studying the humans on the screen. "We offer you one final chance to surrender. Submit now, and we will allow your species to exist as servants. Refuse, and we will sterilize your entire solar system." Admiral Carter looked at the faces of her officers. They were tired, scared, and outnumbered 1,000 to 1. But they were still human. "Supreme Commander," she said, "we have already given you our answer. Come and take it." The alien's glowing eyes grew brighter. "Very well. You have chosen extinction." The Grand Fleet began to move forward, their weapons charging with enough energy to crack planets. But Admiral Carter had one more card to play. "Dr. Blake, activate Phase 2 of Project Prometheus." In her underground laboratory, Karen Blake entered the codes that would change everything. The nanobots that had been spreading through the alien fleet suddenly received new instructions. Instead of just consuming technology, they began to replicate at maximum speed. "Phase 2 activated," Karen reported. "The nanobots are now replicating every 6 minutes instead of 12. But even that wouldn't be enough. The Grand Fleet was too large, and there wasn't enough time for the nanobots to disable all the ships. Then something unexpected happened. Ships from other alien species began dropping out of hyperspace around Earth. But these weren't Zephyrian vessels. These were ships from the Altarian Republic, the Centauri Alliance, and a dozen other civilizations. "Admiral, we're receiving transmissions from the new arrivals," the communications officer reported. "This is Fleet Admiral Falvin of the Altarian Republic," came a voice over the radio. "We have come to surrender to the humans. Lisa Carter stared at the screen in confusion. Say again? We surrender unconditionally to the human race. The alien admiral repeated. We have monitored your battles with the collective. We do not wish to face the same fate. More alien voices filled the communications channels. Species that had been enemies for centuries were all saying the same thing. They were surrendering to humanity. Supreme Commander Zarthul watched as ship after ship abandoned the collective and joined the humans. His grand fleet was falling apart before the battle had even begun. This is impossible, he said. They're just one primitive species. But his tactical officer was looking at the sensor readings with growing horror. Sir, the contamination has reached our ships. Our technology is being consumed and converted. We're losing main power across the fleet. The nanobots had done their work. The Grand Fleet, the most powerful military force in the galaxy, was being eaten alive by machines too small to see. Sir, we have total system failure on 60% of the fleet, the tactical officer reported. The remaining ships are losing power rapidly. Supreme Commander Zarthul looked at his tactical display and saw his mighty fleet dissolving before his eyes. Ships that had conquered 100 worlds were now floating dead in space, their hulls being converted into raw materials for human weapons. Send a message to all remaining collective forces, he ordered. Full retreat. Abandon the Sol system immediately. But it was too late. The nanobots had spread too far, replicated too many times. Even as the alien ships tried to escape, they were being consumed from within. Sergeant Matt Turner felt the Eternal Dominion shudder as its power systems failed. Through the bridge windows, he could see the alien fleet falling apart. Ships were going dark one by one, their crews abandoning them in escape pods. Turner to all human forces, he said into his radio. The alien flagship is dead. Repeat, the enemy command ship is neutralized. From the Ghost Protocol, Lieutenant Commander Helen Parker watched the greatest fleet in galactic history turn into floating scrap meat. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, Admiral Lisa Carter stood on the observation deck of the human space station Victory. Through the windows, she could see a sight it would have been impossible to imagine a year ago. Alien ships from dozens of different species were docked at the station, their crews working alongside humans. Admiral, the Galactic Council representatives are ready for the meeting, said Colonel Steve Davis. Lisa nodded. The Galactic Council had existed for 1,000 years, governing the relationships between hundreds of alien civilizations. Now they wanted to meet with the humans who had destroyed the most powerful fleet in galactic history. The meeting room was filled with aliens of every shape and size. There were the blue-skinned Zephyrians, the insect-like Altarians, the crystalline beings from the Vega system, and dozens of others. They all looked nervous. At the head of the table sat Council Prime Velthur, an ancient alien whose species had been spacefaring when humans were still living in caves. His voice was translated by computers as he spoke. Admiral Carter, he said, we have called this meeting to discuss the future of galactic civilization. Your species has demonstrated capabilities that we did not think possible. Lisa looked around the table at the assembled alien leaders. 6 months ago, most of them had been content to let the Zephyrian collective enslave or destroy humanity. Now they were here to negotiate. What exactly do you want to discuss? She asked. Your weapons, said Representative Colvin of the Altarian Republic. The self-replicating machines you used against the collective. They violate every treaty governing galactic warfare. We weren't part of those treaties, Lisa replied, and we were fighting for our survival. But the implications are terrifying, said another alien. If every species develops such weapons, it could mean the end of all civilization. Lisa stood up and walked to the window. Outside, human workers were building new ships using technology traded from a dozen different alien species. Earth had gone from being an isolated world to the center of galactic politics in just 6 months. "You're right to be afraid," she said, "but not of our weapons. You should be afraid of why we had to build them." She turned back to face the aliens. "For 1,000 years, your Galactic Council allowed strong species to prey on weak ones. You had rules about how to conduct warfare, but those rules only protected the strong. When the collective came to enslave us, where was the Council?" The aliens looked uncomfortable. They knew she was right. "We tried to stop them," Council Prime Velther said weakly. "You sent them a strongly worded letter," Lisa replied. "We sent them tungsten rods at 12% of light speed." Captain Steve Harrison was on the bridge of the new human dreadnought Defiance, leading a patrol through the outer system. His ship was one of 50 the humans had built using captured alien technology. They were faster and more powerful than anything in the galaxy. "Captain, we're detecting a distress signal," his communications officer reported. "It's coming from the Rigel system." "What's the nature of the emergency?" "Unknown raiders are attacking civilian ships. The local defense force is requesting assistance." Steve looked at his tactical display. Rigel was 3 days away at maximum speed. But the Defiance had technology that the aliens hadn't seen before. "Helm, engage the quantum drive. Set course for Rigel." The ship disappeared from normal space, traveling through dimensions that alien scientists said were impossible to navigate. It would reach Rigel in 6 hours instead of 3 days. Back on Earth, Dr. Karen Blake was in her laboratory, working on improvements to the nanobot technology. The original Project Prometheus had been shut down after the battle, but the basic research continued. "Doctor, we're getting reports from across the galaxy," her assistant said. 17 different species have formally banned research into self-replicating weapons." Karen looked up from her work. "What about the 18th species?" "They want to hire us to build nanobots for them." Karen smiled. "Tell them we're not in the business of selling weapons, but we might be interested in sharing defensive technologies with our allies." The human approach to galactic politics was simple. Make friends with everyone, but be ready to fight anyone. It was working better than traditional diplomacy. On the planet Kepler, in the ruins of a collective research facility, Commander Ryan Foster led a team of human soldiers and alien scientists. They were searching for survivors and studying alien technology. "Foster to base camp," he said into his radio. "We found something interesting down here." In the deepest levels of the facility, they had discovered a database containing information about every species in the galaxy. The collective had been planning to conquer or destroy them all, one by one. How many species were on their list? Asked Dr. Sarah Kim, the mission's lead scientist. Ryan looked at the alien computer display. All of them. Every single intelligent species in the galaxy was marked for conquest or extinction, including the ones that helped them. Especially the ones that helped them. They were going to save the collaborators for last. Dr. Kim studied the data with growing horror. The collective hadn't just been building an empire. They had been planning genocide on a galactic scale. "We need to get this information to Admiral Carter immediately," she said. The discovery changed everything. When the Galactic Council learned that the collective had been planning to exterminate every other species, the mood in the negotiations shifted dramatically. "Admiral Carter," said Council Prime Velther, "we owe you an apology. And our gratitude." "You don't owe us anything," Lisa replied. "But the galaxy needs to change. We can't have another collective. What do you propose?" Lisa had been thinking about this for months. A new kind of council. One that actually protects weak species from strong ones. One with the power to stop genocide before it starts. And who would lead this new council? Asked Representative Colvin. Everyone and no one. Shared leadership, shared responsibility, but with real teeth. The aliens looked at each other uncertainly. They had never tried true democratic leadership on a galactic scale. And if some species refused to join? Asked another representative. Lisa's expression grew cold. Then they'll find out what humans consider appropriate enforcement action. The message was clear. Humanity had shown what they could do when threatened. They were now offering to use that same capability to protect others. Captain Steve Harrison arrived at Rigel to find a small fleet of pirate ships attacking a convoy of civilian transports. The pirates were using old collective technology, probably, salvaged from the wreckage of the Grand Fleet. "This is Captain Harrison of the human ship Defiance," he broadcast on all frequencies. "Cease your attack immediately and surrender." The pirate leader's response was predictable. "This is none of your concern, human. Leave now or be destroyed." Steve looked at his tactical officer. "How many civilian ships are they attacking?" 12 transports, sir. Mostly refugees from former collective worlds." "And how many pirate ships?" 8. "They outgun us 3-1. Steve smiled. "Those are good odds for us. All weapons, fire at will." The Defiance engaged the pirate fleet with weapons that combined human ingenuity with alien technology. The pirates had superior numbers, but they had never fought humans before. Battle lasted exactly 7 minutes. When it was over, 6 pirate ships were destroyed and 2 had surrendered. The civilian convoy was safe. "Defiance to refugee convoy," Steve said over the radio. "You're free to continue to your destination. Safe travels." The convoy leader's response came back filled with emotion. "Thank you, humans. We will remember this." Word of the rescue spread quickly through galactic news networks. Other species began to understand that humanity's protection wasn't just for Earth. It was for anyone who needed it. Back in the Galactic Council meeting, the aliens were reaching a historic decision. "We propose the formation of a new galactic defense alliance," announced Council Prime Velther, "with shared leadership and the mandate to protect all member species from aggression." "And enforcement capabilities?" asked Admiral Carter. "Yes, real enforcement, with human consultation on weapons development and tactical doctrine." Lisa looked around the table at the assembled alien leaders. They were offering humanity a role in shaping the future of galactic civilization. "We accept," she said, "but with conditions. Every species gets equal representation, regardless of size or technology level. And the Alliance's primary mission is protection, not conquest." "Agreed," said Velther as the meeting ended and the aliens filed out. Colonel Davis approached Admiral Carter. "Admiral, do you think it will work, this new alliance?" Lisa looked out the window at the ships from dozens of different worlds working together in space. "I don't know, Steve, but I know what happens if it doesn't work." "What's that, Mom?" "Then the galaxy learns what humanity calls appropriate response to galactic threats." The Battle of Earth was over, but its consequences would shape the galaxy for millennia to come. Humanity had shown that they could fight extinction events and win. Now they were offering to fight those battles for others. The galaxy had wanted to see human warfare. Now they understood why some demonstrations should never be necessary. But they also understood that sometimes, when civilization itself was threatened, there was only one species willing to do whatever it took to preserve. It got in the end what humanity called overkill.